The phone behaved as if I had dialed an incomplete number, and sure enough, in about 20 seconds, I got what you'd usually get when you dialed an incomplete number, sort of a broken busy signal. Then I tried dialing 311, but I knew what I was going to find there.
I'm sorry. We are unable to complete your call as dialed.
Loud recording? No people. Why didn't my phone get these cool things? For the next several weeks, anytime I went anywhere, I picked up the phone and tried dialing 660 from payphones at various people's houses, and that got me into trouble more than once. For instance, when I was visiting a friend of my parents named Harriet, I tried dialing 660 from her phone, and it worked. There was just one problem, however. At the time of our visit, Harriet's husband was in the hospital. Well, when the phone rang like this, Harriet just about died. What could it have been except an emergency call concerning her husband in the hospital? Not good. But my research did pay off because one very clear and consistent pattern emerged. I could tell from the very first digit I dialed whether 660 was going to work from any particular phone line. And here's what it was. Did you notice that little burst of dial tone that we heard just as the dial came back to rest? I'll do it again. Boop! That's the way it sounded from Neil's house. Now from my house, the first digit sounded like this. No boop. No 660. No opportunity to meet girls. No fun. All phones were not created equal. And this difference, which is so subtle that you may not even know what I'm talking about yet, was very important to me, because it meant the difference between being able to play on this fun party line or not. It was the first of many subtle differences that I began noticing from one phone line to another. Neil's house was more fun because his phone could reach those party lines, but there was an advantage to being at my house too. When I would dial a number in Suffolk County, which is the eastern end of Long Island, from Neil's house, the call would go through like this. But from my house, it went through like this. Those tones. I had to know something about those tones. So back at my house, I began running back and forth between the telephone and the piano. Let's see, 277 is a prefix that goes through this way. 277-2222 sounds like this. I wonder how many tones that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 tones. Well, maybe each tone stands for one of the digits I dialed. That would make sense. It was a 7-digit number. Let's listen to the tune it plays. I don't know about that one tone per digit theory I had because, the last 4 digits are 2222, and you'd expect the last 4 tones to be all the same, and they are not. However, the next to last 4 tones are the same. It started like this. I had no idea that this was my preliminary lesson in how to blue box, that is, how to control the network directly with these tones. But one thing was already apparent. These tones were not the same as touch tones, the tones used on those push-button phones. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on a touch-tone phone had a very, discordant sound compared to the same thing on these tones. These tones were a lot more musical. I did learn in that first session that the last tone of a 7-tone sequence is always the same, and that the next to last 4 tones corresponded to the last 4 digits. Having partially unraveled the mystery of the tones, it was now time to go on to something else. I was still curious as to why 660 didn't work from my phone, so I tried a few variations on it. First, I tried dialing 660 followed by my own 7-digit phone number. But after only 4 digits of my number, I got this. Then I tried dialing my own area code, 516, followed by 660 and 4 more digits.
5168. I'm sorry, we are unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording, 5168.
5168. Well, I guess that makes sense. My own area code is 516, and I just dialed it. I wonder what the 8 is. I know, let me try 517 and 660 and 4 digits.
I'm sorry, we are unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording. 3132. I'm sorry.
Oh boy, what a nice lady. And she said 3132. Well, I don't know what these numbers mean. Let me try some of the other 51 area codes. 512-660-1111.
I'm sorry, we are unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again, or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording. 5122.
Whoa, same words, but a very different announcing style than the last one.
Or ask your operator.
Now, when I got around to area code 514...
I'm sorry, we are unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again, or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording, 5141. Nous regrettons de ne pouvoir acheminer votre appel. Veuillez vérifier le numéro demandé, composer de nouveau ou demander l'aide de votre téléphoniste. Ceci est un message enregistré 5141.
So now it was time to get out the directory and look up some of these area codes. 514 turned out sure enough to be in Quebec, which explained why it was in English and French, and 517 was in Michigan. Now, from looking at the map, I could see that the 517 area was right next to another area code in Michigan, 313, which could explain why, when I called the 517 area, I got
3132.
Now that last digit, 2, maybe that was a location identifier. Maybe 3132 was Detroit. Now I had to investigate this further, so I ended up dialing all the area codes. There were only 120 in those days, to hear the recordings. The local accents varied quite a bit. For example, Manchester, New Hampshire was very northeastern.
I'm sorry, we are unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording, 6034.
And for a western accent, there was always
Oklahoma City. I'm sorry, we're unable to complete your call as dialed. This is a recording, 4052.
In Centralia, Illinois, and Louisville, Kentucky. They didn't even have recordings. Instead, they had recordings.
This is a recording.
This is a recording.
And it's hard to imagine what it would be like to be married to a woman who sounds like the St. Louis, Missouri recording.
I'm sorry, we are unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again.
Honey, I'm home.
The recording in Jackson, Mississippi was very southern.
I'm sorry, we are unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording, 6012L.
The Philadelphia recording sounded like the lady had just gotten out of bed.
I'm sorry, we are unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording, 2152.
Geez, somebody get that lady a cup of coffee.
I'm sorry, all circuits are busy now. Will you try your call again later, please? This is a recording, 2152.
And the recordings in West Texas were another example of Ma Bell sounding just a little bit racy.
I'm sorry, we are unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again, or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording.
8062.
Well, at least that's how it sounded to the 13-year-old that I was at the time. Anyway, the recordings had personality, but the numbers had to mean something. Most of these recordings gave me the area code I dialed plus the digit 2 or 4.
This is a recording 2022.
This is a recording 2042. This is a recording 2052.
This is a recording 2062.
This is a recording 2074. This is a recording 3024.
This is a recording 6144.
By the time I got up to the 8s and the 9s, I found out I was right that these were location-identifying numbers.
This is a recording from location 8024.
This is recording location 9184.
All the recordings were done by females except in the state of Florida.
This is a recording 3052.
This is a recording 8134.
This is a recording 9042.
But sometimes when I called a vacant code in 305, I got this.
Atlanta has 3 area codes. Since your call did not complete as dialed, please verify the area code, redial, or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording 4041.
And that was just another example of certain places seemingly being under the auspices of others. For example, if I called the 912 area of South Georgia, I'd usually get this.
I'm sorry, we are unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again, or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording 4042.
Which turned out to be Atlanta, but then sometimes I'd get this.
You have dialed a non-working number in the 912 area of Georgia. Please verify your number or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording 4041.
That 4041 place sure seemed to be in charge of a lot of different other area codes, as if it were some sort of a principal connecting point or something. And come to think of it, there were only 12 places that had a recording ID that ended in 1, suggesting that these places had some sort of a special rank. This did appear to be some sort of a hierarchical network. Some aspects of the hierarchical arrangement were surprising. For example, if I called Eastern Kentucky, area code 606, I went through Cincinnati, 5132, in spite of the fact that Kentucky did have a location with a recording in Louisville.
This is a recording 5022L.
Little did I know that there was another Long Island teenager who had already done all of this research and had even gone farther, exploring the prefixes in area code 800, the Inward Watts NPA.
606 through 5132, Cincinnati, Ohio. No Inward Watts access. Location unknown.
And then there was another guy in Bell Harbor who was very fond of this recording.
7164.
But it would be a while before I'd meet them. And at the end of July 1970, I was off to summer camp, where there weren't any phones at all. Some of the telephone recordings featured in this presentation are from later times, but only where it represents accurately what was happening in 1970. Some of the telco recordings are from my original tape recorded at the time. Others are from tapes recorded in 1971 and 72. The voice on the recordings is the same as it was in 1970, with the exception of San Antonio. The recording of Lynbrook 311 is a composite of an actual Lynbrook 311 recording from 1971, modified to make it sound as it did in 1970.